What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Courtside with Rob and Washut. I am all set up finally here at Carver Hawkeye Arena in Iowa City, ready for Nebraska's road game against the Iowa Hawkeyes. A big one for a lot of reasons, mostly for Nebraska. You're talking about NCAA tournament seeding implications. You're talking about Big Ten tournament seeding implications, and adding probably, your last real, I think, opportunity for, maybe the California games, but certainly this one falls in the category of a notable road win. This would be Nebraska's 7th Big Ten road win of the season. They're already at 6, which is a program record in itself. 7 would just add to that. And they're facing a Hawkeye team. We'll talk about motivation. This is probably the biggest game left on their schedule, because they're a team that, while they have stockpiled some wins, they are severely lacking with those signature victories, like those true quad one, top 10 type victory, like tonight would be for them. And so as they kind of make their case to stay in the at-large field for the NCAA tournament, a win today over a top 10 Nebraska team would go a long way in kind of strengthening their resume to make that push for the tournament. I think right now they're probably around an 8 or 9 seed, which is kind of right on the cutoff line for those high major at large. So a big one for Iowa. So here we are, right here, not quite courtside. You look behind me, where is it? Yeah. So see, right up there, the little black section up there, that's the media section. Right behind the Iowa bench. It's not going to be nearly as entertaining without Fran McCaffrey freaking out. You could hear everything that he said in a lot of those things, which was always quite entertaining. But we'll take a walk. We'll do a little loopsy here and kind of break down what this game's all about. Obviously, first and foremost, starts with that fella right there. Number 21, Bryce Sanford, Waukee, Iowa native, former Iowa Hawkeye, coming back to face his former school for the first time. I'm very curious to see what the reception is going to be for him. Talking with some other Iowa people, I don't think it's going to be overly hostile. I think you'll get some boos, as you'd expect, probably from students. But by and large, the Sanford family is still pretty beloved here. His older brother Peyton did a lot of good things for this Iowa team. And Bryce did a lot of good things for this Iowa team as early as last season ago. So that, I think, will probably lessen the vitriol against Price. But again, he'll hear some boos. But I can guarantee you, while he won't tell you that he is just treating this like another road game, and that this reunion in Iowa City doesn't mean much to him. Come on. This is a big game for him. This is a big game for his family. This is a place that he spent his first 2 college seasons and probably grew a lot as a person, as a player. And so coming back in here, it means a lot for him. And I'm curious to see how he manages the emotions that come with that. He's a guy, along with a lot of the other veterans on this team, that does such an excellent job of compartmentalizing the highs and lows that come with every single game. He doesn't get too high, he doesn't get too low, and this will be the real test of that, because if there was ever an opportunity for him to get too high, too jacked up, this would probably be it. So, Braden Frager, Price, chopping it up. I think he's going to handle it the right way and channel that emotion into a positive way for his game tonight. Every time the last 2 years that I covered a game here, it seemed like Price was always knocking down a corner 3 from right there, that corner, and would just put a dagger, along with his brother going crazy the last time they played here. But something about this gym, it's a shooter's gym, and Bryce is a shooter, and I think that this is going to be a fun night for him, regardless of the outcome. I haven't seen him talking too much with any other players yet, as far as former Iowa teammates or anybody else around. He's talked to some old media members that covered him, so the reunion has already begun for him. But as I look at him right now, Bryce is locked in. There he is, right there by himself, locked in. So, there you go, Leo Curtis, right there, the big 7-foot freshman center. He's back in the lineup, or at least back on the available list. He's been out the last few games with a sprained ankle. He is good to go off the availability report. So if Nebraska does need an extra body in the post, they can go to Leo. I wouldn't expect him to play any meaningful minutes unless A, the game gets out of hand one way or the other, or B, Nebraska gets into foul trouble. But just having that option of another guy for a team that's running a 6, maybe 7-man rotation more often than not, just having another body that you can turn to is a really invaluable asset right now, especially at this course of the season where everybody's tired. Fatigue is becoming a real factor more and more with every game. And so just having another body that's still pretty fresh, hasn't played a lot, that could be a real nice piece as Nebraska tries to close this thing out and get to the tournament. So as far as what Iowa does, it's easy. The scouting report, probably priorities 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 are Bennett Sturtz. He does everything for this team, a lot like Nick Martinelli for Northwestern. It probably wouldn't be that much of an overstatement to say that 90% of the offense runs through Bennett Sturtz. I mean, he does everything for this team. He's averaging over 20 points per game. He's 9th in the Big Ten in assists, at like 4.6 assists. He leads the team in steals, and he gets to the free throw line as well as maybe any guard in the conference. And so that is going to be a challenge in itself. I mean, he's a player, he's an All-American candidate for a reason. So he's one of those players for Nebraska that you just try to keep in check. You can't let him go for 30, which, they beat that Northwestern team by 6 because Bennett Sturtz had 36 points. So, he is the heart and soul of everything they do. And if you can get him flustered, get him out of rhythm, and maybe even get him in foul trouble and get him out of the game, Iowa really struggles to operate offensively without him on the floor. So that's got to be a top priority for Nebraska, is making sure that Bennett Sturtz doesn't go All-American mode on you. And he's going to get his numbers. You can't let his tough shot making deflate you because he's capable of doing that. But what you also can't afford to do is overcommit to him and let one of these kind of lesser-known Iowa role players go off on you for a career night. But if I'm picking my poison, I'm letting someone else besides Bennett Sturtz try to beat me and just taking my chances with that. So it's a fine line Nebraska's going to have to walk defensively, but there's no question. You have to make sure you make life as difficult as possible for Bennett Sturtz as you can. So we talked about, this would be a perfect opportunity for Ring Mast. He came back with his big game against Rutgers, had another nice game. He made some threes against Purdue. It was really a big, important part of them coming back in the second half, sending that to OT. But he really struggled offensively last time out against Northwestern. He only had, 3 points, a season-low 3 points, turned it over a season-high 6 times. He was good on the glass, which was encouraging. He had 9 rebounds, 4 offensive boards. So that was at least encouraging, that after being dominated against Purdue, he showed a lot more fight and assertiveness on the glass, especially the defensive glass. But this is a game where, Rink's probably going to be the biggest guy on the floor a lot of times, and he's got to play like it. This has kind of got to be, I think, one of those Rutgers-type games where they go at him inside. They make it tough on you. They make it entry passes into the paint really difficult. They've got a physical defense that contests passing lanes and does all those things. But if getting the ball inside the rink and letting him try to go one-on-one as much as possible, I think would behoove the Huskers to do so more often than not. Not just to get Rink going, but to kind of get that offense, to see the ball go in early and get some flow going inside, rather than trying to hope and pray that you can come out firing from three-point range and then all of a sudden kind of live and die off that. Jamarcus Lawrence is another guy that needs to step up. He also had a poor game, played 18 minutes and really didn't do much of anything, had more turnovers than assists, and he's too important of a player. Rink gets all the talk for good reason, but I would put Jamarcus Lawrence right up there as far as players that when Nebraska's offense is clicking and they're playing with the rhythm that they need to play with, it's Jamarcus setting the tone on every single possession. So getting Jamarcus back in his groove a little bit, not just from a scoring standpoint, but he needs to be a better facilitator, especially against, like I said, a aggressive and pesky Iowa defense that doesn't give up anything easy. So beyond that, the crowd, supposed to be a blackout theme tonight. I have seen some speckles of red. I don't think it's going to be a Northwestern type invasion, but there was no line outside the arena, maybe like 20 people for the student line to get in here. They had their first sellout of the Ben McCollum era last home game against Purdue, and they lost by 20. So now you got a Tuesday night, 8 p.m. tip, albeit against your football rival, top 10 team. Just talking with some Iowa people, they didn't seem overly convinced that this was going to be an electric hornet's nest type of crowd. But I don't know how much that means, because I remember it wasn't too long ago, I was here during that giant snowstorm that ended up snowing me in for like 3 or 4 days. And there was maybe 50 people in the stands just because like no one could get to the game. And Nebraska lost and they got blown out. And like, so the crowd, there was nobody there and it didn't matter. So like, I don't put a lot of stock into that. I mean, it's good for Nebraska that I don't expect this to be an overly hostile environment. But at the same time, this is all about them. This is all about them having the right mindset, playing with the right mentality, and using all of the outside motivators. Price's return, Fred coming back to Carver Hawkeye, Sam, he grew up watching his dad in Iowa State. He's got some motivation in this one. And you go down the line, Nate Lenzer, he's an Iowa native, and I know this means a little more to him as well. So, and you got some older guys on this roster that have had their issues. They lost to Iowa twice last year, including on senior night last year that essentially kept them out of the Big Ten tournament. So no shortage of motivation in this one. I expect Nebraska to come in dialed in, because this is a game they have to come in dialed in. They need to be ready to play. They've done a really good job of that, especially on the road, coming in with the right mentality and getting off to better starts than they do at home. I don't know why that is, but it's been a theme, and it has to happen again tonight, because if you let this Iowa team hang around and plod and slug around and shorten the game with long possessions, that's when you get in trouble, because that's exactly the game Iowa wants to play. So get out, come out firing, push the pace, force some turnovers, and play Nebraska basketball. This type of Nebraska basketball that got you to 22 wins, and I think they're going to have a real chance to pull off road win number 7, win 23, 24, I forgot, overall, and take one step closer to locking up a top 4 seed in the Big Ten tournament and potentially keeping yourself in the conversation for a top 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. So we'll see what Huskers show up tonight. Tune in after the game, and we'll get full post-game analysis. Thanks again to our sponsors, Group Therapy Bike Tours, Slim Chickens, and yeah, let's have some fun in Iowa City.